Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Sana Mursalim. I'm from B class in 7th semester of English Department at State Islamic Institute of Palopo. And today, I'm going to present about my research proposal. And the title of my research proposal is the influence of role-play method on speaking skill at the first grade students of senior high school number 3 of Palopo during pandemic COVID-19. And this research includes 3 chapters. The first is introduction, the second is literature review, and the last is research methodology. Well, we are going to the chapter 1. The first is background of the research. Speaking is the most important ability to learn English well, but in fact, many students face difficulties on speaking English well. They are lack of practice. Where practice is important to get used to something including the improved speaking skill, not only for students but also for many people. Speaking is an activity requiring the integration of many subsystems. All these factors combine together to make speaking second or foreign language for middle test for language learners. Yet, for many people, speaking is seen as the central skill. Based on the researcher observations during pandemic COVID-19, role-play games were being widely used by many people on various social media. So, what if role-play is used as one of methods to improve a student's ability in speaking? In addition to improve speaking skill, role-play is also useful for motivating students so that they have confidence to express their own ideas. Next, the second is problem statement. There are 2 problem statements in this research. The first is, does the role-play method give influence to improve students' speaking skill at the first grade students in senior high school number 3 of Palopo during pandemic COVID-19? And the second is how the student respond to role-play method in improving speaking skill at the first grade during pandemic COVID-19 of senior high school number 3 of Palopo. And next is the third objective of the research. The first is to discover the influence of role-play method to improve students' speaking skill at the first grade during pandemic COVID-19 in senior high school number 3 Palopo. And the second is to discover the students' response to role-play method in improving speaking skill at the first grade during pandemic COVID-19 of senior high school number 3 Palopo. And the fourth is significance of the research. In this research, there are 2 expected benefits. This research expected to give teachers additional knowledge and experience about the ways to improve students' speaking skill during pandemic. And then the second benefit for students, the role-play game can give motivation for them to improve their skill in speaking. And the last is scope of the influence of role-play games as a method to improve students' speaking skill. In fact, role-play has often been used in an effort to improve students' speaking ability in teaching any language, especially English. However, it's different for this study because it will explain how the role-play method is used during a pandemic. Well, we move to the next chapter. Is chapter 2 about literature review. First, about concept of speaking. From Nunan say that speaking is oral interaction that be characterized in terms of routine, which are conventional and therefore predictable ways of presenting information. Routine content frequently requiring types of information structures, being either be expository or evaluative. The next is about concept of role play. From Harmer offers this definition. Role play activities are those where students are asked to imagine that they are in different situations and act accordingly. The third about teaching speaking through the role play. In teaching English, especially speaking, role play as a technique is man-made one. So it cannot be complete method which can solve all problems. Role play can give many advantages for students to improve their skill in speaking, such as can give students motivation for say what their ideas. Role play offers an outlet for vocabulary to be used in different ways and new subjects. We are focusing on something that students naturally love with the use of role play. And the fourth about pandemic COVID-19. Pandemics are the most part disease outbreaks that become widespread as a result of the spread of human to human infection. And COVID-19 is a disease caused by the infection of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, first verified in Wuhan City in Hubei province of China in December 2019. The last about previous research finding from Fadila in her journal Teaching Speaking by Role Play Activity conclude that role play is a technique which can develop students' fluency in target language, promotes students to speak or interact with others in the classroom, increases motivation and makes the technique and learning process more enjoyable. Next, the last chapter about research methodology. The first is research design. This research uses a quantitative methodology, and the purpose of this research is to know how role play method affects to students' speaking skill, especially during pandemic COVID-19. The second is about population and sample of the research. The population of this research from first grade students of senior high school number 3 of Palopo. The subject of this research consists of 30 consists of 30 students of class Mathematics and Natural Science for at Senior High School number 3 Malu, academic year 2020 to 2021. The last is instrument of the research. Instrument of this research is oral test. The oral test was divided into pre-test and post-test. The researcher give the pre-test in the first meeting and post-test in the last meeting. The researcher has designed the items for speaking test and used the individually interaction. I think that's all about my presentation. And thank you for watching, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.